Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are taking a little road trip down what we'll call the hypothetical highway. Now, completely forget those old cheesy sci-fi movies for a second. We're actually diving into a massive, very real-world shift in how our government and military talk about unexplained aerial phenomena, or UAPs. We're going to look at recent analysis that asks a total paradigm-shifting question. If we assume the evidence of highly advanced non-human entities is real, well, what exactly happens to our society next?
Okay, let's set the stage by contrasting the old with the new. For decades, the classic UFO sighting stereotype involved, frankly, some pretty suspect claims. The media usually painted it as a guy who maybe had a few too many drinks down by the lake, shouting about a glowing silver saucer. But contrast that with our new reality. It's night and day. We aren't dealing with suspect sources anymore. We're looking at official, on-the-record reports from highly credible Navy pilots, top-level intelligence officers, and literally former U.S. presidents all openly acknowledging that there are objects up there we just can't explain.
Which brings us to Section 1, From Conspiracies to Credible Claims. We really need to ground ourselves in how this entire conversation has completely moved out of the tinfoil hat territory and straight into actual congressional hearings and presidential briefings.
And this isn't just some isolated fluke. We're looking at a rapid-fire, bipartisan timeline of government action. Just look at 2023. President Biden actually ordered a fighter jet to shoot down an unidentified object flying at 20,000 feet right over Lake Huron, an object with zero clear signs of propulsion. That exact same year, intelligence officer David Grusch sat down and testified about UAPs under oath. Then you've got Representative Paulina Luna demanding 46 UAP videos from the Department of Defense with a hard April 14th deadline. And just recently, Donald Trump directed Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth to identify and release UFO-related files. This isn't the fringe anymore, folks. This is the absolute highest level of government demanding answers and pushing hard for declassification.
To really grasp the gravity of this whole thing, just listen to Navy Commander David Fravor. He described his first-hand encounter with an object that had absolutely no wings, no rotors, and no exhaust or visual propulsion. This is a highly trained, elite military observer, and he flat-out stated that it accelerated like nothing he had ever seen. In his professional estimation, it was simply not from this world.
Now, what is truly staggering here is the setting where these explosive claims were made. Intelligence officer David Grusch didn't just say this casually. He stated it under oath, right in front of the United States Congress. He testified that during his official duties, he was informed of a multi-decade UAP crash retrieval and reverse engineering program. Now, sure, the Pentagon denies those specific claims, but get this, they simultaneously admit they can't explain a lot of the objects they're currently tracking in our own airspace.
We really have to remember that we aren't just talking about some blurry, out-of-focus lights in the night sky. We're talking about physical characteristics verified by hard, undeniable military data. These objects are being tracked on our most advanced radar systems. They show absolutely zero visible propulsion, they travel at lightning speeds, and, maybe the craziest part, they execute instant decelerations. To put that into perspective for you, the G-forces generated by stopping that fast would literally turn any human pilot into a pancake instantly. It completely 100% defies our current understanding of physics and aerodynamics.
So the crucial takeaway here is this. Whether or not you personally believe in aliens, well, that's not even the real story anymore. The core debate happening right now is all about transparency. It's about whether the government should finally release the classified information it clearly holds. Stop the lying by omission, and just treat the public like adults who are fully capable of digesting the truth.
And that perfectly takes us to Section 2, the technological chasm. Let's keep cruising down our hypothetical highway and really look at the sheer, mind-boggling physics required if these tracked objects are, in fact, from somewhere else.
Let's try to visualize the scale of the universe, which, let's be honest, is almost impossible for our brains to fully grasp. Even if you could travel at the speed of light, which humanity absolutely cannot do right now, it would still take 2.5 million years just to reach the edge of the nearest galaxy. 2.5 million! And with our current technology, that exact same trip would take 1 billion years. The sheer unfathomable distance acts like an impenetrable brick wall for modern human engineering.
Okay, but let's say a species actually does conquer light speed. Well, they immediately run headfirst into the ultimate speed bump. Time dilation. If you've seen movies like Interstellar, you know exactly how this works. The travelers themselves might only experience a couple of decades of flight time, but by the time they finally arrive at their destination, millions of years would have passed back on their home planet. It makes coordination, communication, or, a simple return trip practically impossible under our current laws of physics.
Therefore, the logical conclusion we're left with is just staggering. If someone or some entity has successfully traversed these impossible distances to reach us, we are dealing with a completely different breed of intelligence. They've mastered physics that would take us 1 billion years to even scratch the surface of. If they are actually here, the technological chasm is so massive it's honestly hard for our modern minds to even comprehend.
Which brings us right into Section 3, the psychological shockwave. Think about it. If we are suddenly face-to-face with an intelligence that vastly outmatches us in every conceivable metric, what exactly does that do to the human psyche?
Well, the immediate casualty of this realization is going to be our collective ego. For all of human history, our worldviews, our philosophies, our religions, they've all been largely based on this concept of human exceptionalism. The belief that we are the be-all and end-all, sitting proudly right at the very top of the food chain. But this new paradigm? It introduces a deeply, deeply humbling thought. Compared to these visitors, humanity might be completely minuscule and frankly irrelevant in the grand scheme of the cosmos.
If that foundational paradigm shifts overnight, just think about how you or your family or your neighbors would react. The individual's psychological toll could be absolutely devastating. We're talking about widespread acute stress and deep existential anxiety as people desperately question their whole place and purpose in the universe. We would likely see a profound loss of trust in the scientists and the government officials who kept this hidden. Our religious and philosophical systems would face severe crises of meaning. And the internet? It would undoubtedly explode with misinformation, paranoia, and intense conspiracy theories as people desperately search for any kind of anchor.
Let's broaden the scope a bit here for Section 4, global disruption and humanity. Beyond just the individual's psychological hit, how would the physical, economic, and geopolitical infrastructure of our entire world actually react to this kind of disclosure?
The short answer? Total disruption. We'd require an overnight, rapid reevaluation of our foundational physics. Just think about our energy grid for a second. If we learn about these new propulsion systems that don't require combustion, boom, there goes the need for oil. Entire geopolitical structures built around fossil fuels would just collapse, and trillions of dollars in global infrastructure could literally become useless overnight. On top of that, our global intelligence and defense agencies, they would be completely scrambling to rewrite every single risk assessment they currently have on file,
And this creates a geopolitical nightmare. Or, depending on how you look at it, maybe a grand opportunity. Global superpowers like the US, China, and Russia wouldn't just sit on their hands. Imagine a chaotic 21st century space race erupting the very next day. Nations would furiously compete to monitor the threat, establish unprecedented defense protocols, or even vie for favorable technological partnerships with these highly advanced entities. Everyone would be looking for any possible advantage.
Faced with all of this, humanity would likely find itself split right at a crossroads. Down one path, you have the apocalyptic reaction, deep division, cultural paranoia, and a terrifying fear of total societal collapse. But down the other path? An integrative view. What if this shocking disclosure actually fosters unprecedented global unity? What if realizing we aren't alone forces us to finally stop bickering with each other? We could actually collaborate, using these incredibly advanced insights to cure diseases and rapidly solve our planet's greatest problems.
So, the absolute crucial point we are left with is this final massive question. As politicians aggressively push for declassification and highly credible military witnesses continue testifying under oath, the possibility of a major disclosure feels closer than ever before. If this data is real, and if we are forced to realize that human beings are truly not the be-all and end-all of the cosmos, can our society actually handle the truth? Take a moment to really think about how that would rewrite your own worldview. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope it sparked some deep curiosity for you. Keep learning and keep asking those big questions.